I want to start discussing support, where you identify it, where it is and where it may not be. Yesterday, the Buffalo News released a poll suggesting that 86% of Catholics surveyed would like you to resign. When you heard that, what were you thinking?
You know, I was not, of course, happy to see that, but I've learned over the years not to give too much credence to polls. There are so many, there's so much wiggle room in how polls are done and what are people thinking when they respond to a poll. I depend, not that I wouldn't take it seriously for sure, but I depend more on what I learn from the various groups I have regular contact with. For example, just one example, an important consultative group of mine in every diocese, there is one, it's called the Diocesan Pastoral Council. And here it's about 30, mostly laity. There's one priest and one sister according to the bylaws, but the rest are laity who are not chosen by me but by the vicars, the priests in their regions. It has to be regional representation. Then we represent the ethnic communities. There's always someone from the African American group, Hispanic. We always have a high school student and a young adult. So it's broad. And they consult with me on everything and anything. And we had a 2-hour meeting Saturday morning. And one of the questions they had on the agenda at the end was a vote of confidence or no confidence. And they decided they would do that vote after a very robust morning of discussion. And I said, you can throw every single question and concern at me. And they did. And then they said, Bishop, please step out of the room for a while. So they debated for about 20 minutes. And when I came back in, they told me that the result was 24 had voted in favor of my not resigning, my staying. 4 had voted for me to resign and 1 abstention. And these are people with whom I work on a regular basis on diocesan issues and challenges. So something like that for me counterbalances, because these are people who know me well. They know how I think. They know what my values are. And that kind of thing is important. Plus the mail we're getting every day.
But if the poll were even 20 percentage points off, it would still suggest that a substantial number of folks in the diocese, your parishioners, would like to see you to go.
And some of them lapsed. And I'm not sure the question, you can probably fill me in, I'm not sure the question in the poll was, do you want the bishop to resign because of the sexual abuse crisis? What I saw was simply, and I might have read it wrong, Steve, do you think the bishop should resign?
Do you feel Bishop Malone should resign?
Right, yes. Now there could be, let's think about that for a minute, there could be many, many, many reasons, even apart from the horror of the abuse crisis, why some people would want me to resign. I know some people don't like the church's position, for example, on abortion, which I speak out often about. Some may not like my personality. You know what I mean? I mean, there could be, I don't know that for sure, but I pay attention to it, but I don't exaggerate its importance in my own discernment.
At what point would you believe that you've lost the people in the pews?
I think that if, in fact, the Holy See, if the Vatican were to do a review of the situation, something I'd be very open to, by the way, if they would assign someone to look into the whole situation, someone from outside to look into it, and after a careful review, and usually with those things, whoever is put in charge of that will interview lots of people on all sides of the issue, fact-finding. And if then the report came back from Rome that the Holy Father thought I should resign, then that's, of course, something I would, out of obedience, do immediately.
You mentioned at your most recent news conference that you felt you had the support of a majority of the clerics in the diocese, and that if you didn't, then you may have to rethink your position on resignation. We're hearing about a no confidence letter being distributed. You concerned about that?
Well, of course, it happened in Boston, as you know, and it had a huge number of priests. As of yesterday, what I read in the Buffalo News, the same as I heard last week, was that a total of 12 priests had signed that letter. We have 391, if you count the active priests and also the senior priests. They don't like me to call them retired because many of them still are active. But there were 391 if you count all of our priests and religious order guys, and it seems to me that 12 who chose to sign the letter is not really a significant vote of no confidence.
What would be significant?
I don't know. I don't really know. I mean, if it were a majority of them or something, I'd have to rethink it. I wouldn't, no matter what it is, Steve, I wouldn't jump to a conclusion. It would just become part of my discernment. I mean, I pray and think about these things and consult about them every day, as you wouldn't be surprised to hear.
You think about resignation every day?
No, about how to plot a way forward. That's my major reason for wanting to stay on. And believe it or not, and I think it's not to get pietistic because I'm not a pietistic guy by nature, but I know it's God's grace and the good people around me. I really feel calm and confident, believe it or not, about staying on and honoring my commitment I made when I came here to be part of the leading forth of the diocese, not by myself, but with others, lay leaders, my clergy, and all of that. I want to honor the commitment and not just try to escape from the fire.